Hey, what's up you guys? WyattXFamine here, everyone's favorite YouTuber who stutters and mispronounces, and today doing a list from worst to best on Peste Noire. Peste Noire, a French black metal band that I've talked very highly about here on YouTube for the past couple of years. And I feel like what makes these guys so special is not only do they combine black metal into their sound, but there's also this essence of like this Gallic folk instrumentation that they always intertwine with their music that makes each individual album one of a kind and truly a work of art. And for me at least, they're one of the most ambitious black metal bands that I can think of turning the past of the millennia since they were formed in 2001. And with all their individual members, Famine's kind of like the mastermind behind a lot of these just incredible albums I listen to time and time again. And after listening to each individual album, all 7 of them, I felt like now I'm more than confident to do a worst to best list on all the full lengths of Peste Noire. And obviously we're going to start off this list at the worst. Coming in at number 7 is their full length from 2018 entitled Peste Noire Split Peste Noire. Oh god. Yeah, guys, this full length right here. When I heard the news, I was really stoked about it and really hyped for it. And I wanted to do an album review for it. But guys, when I listened to it in its entirety, man, I was so disappointed with it. And it's not even for the reasons why you think it is, alright? Yes, there are this, like, I guess, electronic rap moments that come through on this album, but if anything, those are the moments that kind of make this album kind of a standout. Actually, they're kind of like the highlights about this album right here, and it really wasn't that big of a surprise to me that they would do something like this because they've done it before with previous albums, and like I stated, it's really the only thing about this album that makes it quite unique. As for like the other 70% of this album that's more black metal fueled, it's like they're playing it just so safe. And like I stated, Peste Noire to me is a really ambitious black metal band that does anything but just play it safe. And here there's like nothing really special about it. It just comes off sounding so standard. For their quality, this is just, to me at least, quite the disappointment. And to me at least, all these riffs sound like Meloche, which I can't stand that band, and I can tell they're influenced by it a little bit because the dude from Meloche is a guest spot on this album, I believe on track 4, and God, his vocals are just so irritating because his screams are just so insanely high-pitched that it sounds like a fucking French hen when the sun rises on a farm. Like, God, it's so irritating. The only track on here that's black metal fueled that really impressed me was Song Viking, track number 3, that has like these choruses come through and it just makes the song just so much more bigger, and it has like a little bit of ambition that I would expect from Peste Noire. And I was expecting the whole album basically to sound like this, but it's really the only track on here that I go to and actually enjoy. For the rest of it, it's just such a disappointment. There's really nothing that made me go, wow, that's Peste Noire for you. It just wasn't there. Basically, to summarize this, I was expecting a brand new Ferrari, but what I got was a brand new Toyota Corolla. Now, we go to number 6. This is their sophomore full-length, Folkfuck Folie. Now, guys, hear me out. This may be ranked pretty low on this list, and obviously it's side by side right next to their 2018 full length, but guys, I can't stress this enough. Basically, Folkfuck Folie and literally all the other albums I'm about to be talking about are leaps and bounds and light years better than their 2018 disaster piece. Now, as much as I enjoy this album, the reason why it's ranked so low on this list is because I would say this is Peste Noire's heaviest album on here, where you listen to the guitar work, it has a strong essence of thrash metal being presented here, that when you listen to it from front to back, the whole album, it's really like a mid-paced black thrash album. And I guess for me, the last 2 things that come to mind when I think of Peste Noire is a band that's either heavy or aggressive. And I felt like since they were so focused on that writing style with this album, it sacrificed a lot of their acoustic melodies that I just fall oh so in love with all the other albums that I'm going to be talking about in a little bit. And it just doesn't have that kind of like ambitious experimentation that makes the others as well quite the standout. But like I stated, this does have some of their heaviest material they ever wrote. Especially track number 6 on this album that I just can't pronounce to save my life, like any other Peste Noire song because it's all in French. That really has like this thick and groovy bass tone on here, crushing guitar riffs, and the vocals that are just so hellish and harsh. So really I would say that's just flat out their heaviest song they ever wrote. But like I stated, it's a good album, but it's not the first Peste Noire album that comes to mind when I think of them. Now, we move on to number 5 on this list, which will be Peste Noire's 2015 album, La Chaise Diable. Probably said that album title wrong, but what else is new on this channel? But yes, I've steadily started to admire this album more and more recently, because when you really look at the acoustic works on this album, they are just absolutely masterfully done. Especially the song on here that has a female guest spot, which her vocals intertwine with Famine's vocals, and it's just oh so fucking gorgeous of a track. But the two complaints I've always had with this album is, one, Famine's vocals are not so wretched and high-pitched as they are in other albums. They're more toned down and kind of have like this grunty kind of like singing, I guess, with it. But at the same time, it really works with this album and its pace and its mood and atmosphere. So I've kind of forgiven that complaint and forgotten about it. But the other complaint, which basically everyone has with this album, is that it's kind of repetitive, especially when you go on to the longer songs on here that clock in around the 10-minute mark. A lot of these melodies are pretty repetitive, but now I've started to realize that this kind of like repetitive style they're going with the instrumentations, to me now it's become a double-edged sword. Though it is repetitive, it really works well with the lyrical themes when you read upon it, because, you know, the nice and wonderful people on YouTube comment the lyrical translation, so it gives me a better understanding about this album. And basically, this album is kind of like for the people who want to be kind of like the tomboy in the more rural areas of France. And one song that people complain is repetitive is about an individual that wants to escape city life and wants to live more on the outskirts of France. And one song then is that he does so and then finds out about a ghost in this kind of like little rural area and kind of gets possessed, or I guess scared by it, and kind of goes insane. And these repetitive melodies kind of work and intertwine with the lyrical aspect about this. So it kind of works along with kind of like the everyday routine you'll find in rural areas, where you kind of wake up, you know, do the same thing and then go to bed, and, you know, again, that repetitive melodies with it kind of works well with it. Though, like I stated, it's a double-edged sword. Lyrically, it works with it, but musically, without knowing it, it can get a little irritating. Continuing on to the number 4 spot is their 2011 album, That. Now, this is their 4th full-length and their first full-length without the writing style help of Niche, who has been a part of the band ever since their early beginnings with their demo Aryan Supremacy. Isn't that right, Antifa? And easily, I would say this is their most experimental album that they've ever created, and easily as well their most inaccessible, which is really the only negative thing I can say about it. When you look at the lineup and the guest spot for this album, it's like they really didn't hold anything back. You have a trombone, you have a cello, you have an accordion. Hell, the female vocalist, Audrey, I believe her name is, does a fucking dove imitation on this album. Tracks on here all range past the 10-minute mark, where really I think they have their longest song on here that ranges over 20 minutes. There's also this kind of like industrial edge to it that really, I would say, they took a lot of inspiration from Diabsequire. Like I stated, the only negative thing I can say that this isn't the gateway album if you're new to Peste Noire, but if you really want to go to like Cloud 9 with their creativity, where they didn't really hold anything back, definitely give this a listen. Taking Bronze will be their 2009 full length, entitled That. Now, this full length right here, I've always admired ever since I heard it, and all the songs on here really have more of an emphasis on this kind of like French attitude, I guess, that really all Peste Noire albums do have, but this one just has it the strongest to me. And it may not be as experimental as literally anything else you're going to hear by them, but just these really straightforward melodies that just come off so catchy and kind of like almost sing-alongable in a way, even though, you know, it's on a different language and I can't understand it. Just like has like this march effect to it that just really makes it sound so triumphant and glorious than it should be. And like I stated, it's more emphasis on just these really acoustic melodies, where there's 3 songs on here that are just instrumental alone, and even the songs on here that are, you know, range around the 5 to 6 minute mark that have vocals, still a massive majority of those songs still has a lot more emphasis on melody, acoustic works. There's some piano work on here, and just really overall, I've always looked at this album as their most harmonizing in all of their discography. Coming in silver, taking the second spot on here, will be their self-titled album. My, oh my, guys, this is easily Peste Noire at their most ambitious they've ever been throughout their whole entire careers. And just the ideas being presented here is just mind-boggling. All these bells and whistles, components and sounds coming in and out on this album is just truly a work of art, where they both simultaneously know how to be very straightforward with the black metal, but also very ambitious and outgoing and experimental and avant-garde with all these other sounds being presented here. You have a flute, clarinet, some horns, some trumpets, I believe 3 to 4 different guest vocalists on here that when you look it up on the Metal Archives, the special guest spots on here, it just is this ginormous list that makes each individual song on here very special and quite unique, that it's really impossible to pick a favorite or a standout track, because the whole album itself is always having these standout moments and makes each individual track sound completely different and unique. And I mean, if you're just looking for them at their most ambitious, like I stated, this is the album to go to. And the cliche #1 spot that probably all you guys saw coming, taking gold, will be their debut full length. Guys, you all saw it coming, because when it comes to recommending people Peste Noire albums when they're new to it, 10 out of 10 times I will always say this full length right here, because really it's their most accessible, but that's what makes it just so great of an album, because somehow they're able to become a one-of-a-kind band that's very straightforward, but still has this ambition and these melodies that are very unorthodox for black metal, that makes it quite unique and still is easy for both newcomers and purists out there to dive into and absorb and enjoy. Along with the fact, too, I must say about this album, I think it's a perfect combination of both beauty and hideousness, basically, alright? When you listen to the melodies and the acoustic work on here that is just oh so infectious, it's so gorgeous and elegant sounding, but yet at the same time you have the vocals done by either Famine or Niche on here that's just so high pitched and wretched and filthy and just throat wrenching, that is just so hideous and nasty, but somehow they're able to make both those adjectives blend in together and really kind of enhance each other to just, again, make this album a one-of-a-kind work of art that just, for me, it's easily their best album, hands down. Along with the song on here, too, that we should all know, because it has like a 1.4 million hits and counting on YouTube that I just can't pronounce, that has Niche on vocals with his wretched screams, and that melody that kicks in with just such a perfect transition that just always blows me away how elegant and pure and beautiful it sounds, along with, you know, Niche's hideous, ugly, wretched vocals that just somehow intertwine and work so well with one another that, to me, it's an easy pick for number one. Everyone admires it for damn good reason. And yeah, guys, that's it for this worst to best list on Peste Noire. Really curious to know what's your favorites from this band and what band I should do next with this series. So like always, guys, thanks for watching, liking, supporting, and subscribing. You guys are the best, and good listens.